Coming up this morning, this Monday morning, it's beautiful Monday morning. The news we all expected came down late last week as it was announced right tackle Ryan Ramczyk will miss the entire 2024 season at the minimum. Will that finally kickstart the Saints into realizing they need more starting help on the offensive line? Probably not, but anyway. Wide receiver Rashid Shaheed signed a one-year extension for $5 million. What does that mean for the receiving corps, both for the present and for the future? LSU, meanwhile, was predicted to finish fifth in the SEC by the media that covers the league. Is this too high, too low, or just right? We'll ask our friend Garland Gillen of Fox 8, and we will wrap the show with my thoughts on Team USA needing a big comeback against the South Sudan. That's coming in my extra point. All this and more coming up next on the Dattitude podcast.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to all my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there whose breaking news alerts are completely out of control. Anything happened this weekend? Last weekend? Jeez. I'll tell you what. Let's just make every day Monday. Wait, what? Oh, you hate that idea? Okay, well, you'll love this. This is Dattitude, episode number 256, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, July the 22nd, 2024. We are just 2 days away from the real start of Saints training camp and 48 days away from the regular season opener against the Carolina Panthers. You know, it doesn't matter your political status, but you know what's funny is, and I watched, I think, every news channel at some point yesterday. The looks on their faces. He did what on a Sunday? I got to come in and work on a Sunday? A couple podcasts I listened to, man, they were just bitching and moaning like nobody's business. Got to work. I work every Sunday, getting this show ready so you can enjoy it. Work on a Sunday. That's what we do. You work whatever day it is. Doesn't matter. I mean, come on. You could be out there on top of a roof in New Orleans in July. You cover news. Calm down. Garland Gillen is coming up. Now, I'm your host, Jim Derry. You know that already. Whether you are watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or listening on demand to the podcast, as always, I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. You know how to do it. You know how to be a part of the show. You can talk to me. You can talk to Gabe. Gabe's going to come on in a minute. I'm always talking about Gabe. We decided on Mondays and Wednesdays going to bring Gabe onto the show. He's coming on in just a second, too. You can be a part of the show by typing in your comments, even if you wanted to just tell me hello. Jerry, what's up? A-Town, good morning. Another fine day to be alive and well. No doubt about it. And when you get to my age, when you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes and you see the same thing you see every morning, it's a good day. What's up, Rock? How are you doing? Brian Dubose. Ryan Ramczyk is done. Explain. We will. We will most certainly explain. So like our four friends did here, if you want to be a part of the show, just type in your comment on YouTube or Facebook. We're still working on X. We got some issues going on there. Subscribe to the YouTube page. You know, just search for @Dattitude Pod on YouTube. We want you to be a member. You can always know what's going on. You'll have access to our shorts and show takes. Gabe does a great job with those. New shorts every single day. Gabe Henderson is a part of the Dattitude podcast. You can say hello to Gabe if you want. What's going on this morning?
What's up, Jim? Nothing. Just,
well, we always talk about you, and they never really see your face. I think your face has actually only been on the show a couple times. So we're gonna start doing this every Monday and Wednesday morning. Whatever we want to do, just say hello. So there you go.
Yeah, whatever we want to do, talk about whatever we want. One thing I did want to make note of this morning, I know you and Larry talked last week about the AFC East. I was
Yep.
perusing odds. I was looking to see if any sportsbooks had preseason game odds because I was doing a little piece on the Saints earlier. The Patriots are plus 275 at Caesars to have the worst record in the NFL. So
Wow.
I know you guys talked about that on Friday. Thought I'd
That is
make a little note of that.
value. I don't want to give too many spoiler alerts because I don't necessarily think it's going to be the Patriots, but it very well could be. And I think that's actually a value. So when we get to the team that I think it is going to be, that'll be the topic of conversation for the next Monday. And you can tell them. And it's coming up not too long. I think I don't want to give it too many spoiler alerts. I mean, people can kind of, if I start telling them how many weeks it's going to be, they're going to start guessing what it is.
See,
who do you like? Who do you like in that spot?
Odds makers think it'll be 6 or 7 more weeks before we discuss it because they have Carolina as the next favorite behind the Patriots at plus 525, but they seem to believe it'll be the Patriots. I haven't looked at all the schedules as extensively as you have, but I don't think the Patriots are bad value. I could see it going really, really wrong for the New York Giants, although I do like Brian Daboll. I just think they have completely stripped that team of any talent, and especially if Daniel Jones gets hurt again, oh boy.
I don't know. A-Town saying hello. You got some friends back there. So
Starting to feel like you.
You don't want to feel like me, brother. I'm sure. All right, you're gonna come on every Monday and Wednesday, and we're just gonna say hello. Some days it might be for a minute, some days it might be for 5. Who knows? Maybe one day, maybe some days it'll just be me and you. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Some days I'll come with something I want to rant about or something I want to discuss, and other days I'll bring fun little nuggets like I found this morning on the Patriots odds after you guys talked about it last week.
We'll have plenty to talk about going forward. It's about to be that time. So thank you for being behind the scenes and now in front of the scenes. And Gabe is a huge part of this show. Again, he does all the shorts for this show, puts them on YouTube, puts them on TikTok if you do TikTok. I'm telling you, he works his ass off, and it shows for all the things that we do. So thank you, Gabe.
Of course, I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to get to Garland in just a minute, too. We got some comments back there. Jerry saying hello, too, as well. Our regulars are listening in. Before we get to Garland, I got a couple things here. How about Xander Schauffele? We don't talk a whole lot of golf all that much, but the fourth and final major wrapped up. I got to admit that I didn't watch a whole bunch of it. I did watch the last 2.5 hours so yesterday, British Open. Just the 10th time ever that Americans have won all 4 golfing majors, which is kind of crazy considering that you would have thought, during the Tiger days when he was winning at least 2 a year. But that's true. 10th time. We're going to get into our thoughts. I know y'all got a lot of questions on the Saints. One was Rocky's asking, how do we feel about the Shaheed extension? That's definitely something I'm going to ask Garland in just a minute. Got some interesting quotes and comments also coming up. Gerald from Tennessee wrote earlier that he wrote to me over the weekend. This is not when we're going to talk about Ryan Ramczyk in a little bit. This is not 2001 when what it is being asked of a right tackle was really different than a left tackle. Nowadays, right tackle is being asked to do more similar things to the player on the left. So I think there should be concern regarding if Penning can be a competent starter. I don't disagree. I think that's a great comment. Again, we'll ask Garland what he thinks. Alvin Kamara, no movement there. We're about to head into training camp. That's coming Wednesday. On Wednesday, Zach Ewing will be a part of the show. Our own Zach Ewing, who is the Saints editor. And I'm going to have my top 5 questions going into Saints training camp. Now, it may be a little bit repetitive, but I'm going to probably stay away from some of the things that we talked a ton about. I'm going to, obviously the number 1 question is Kamara, so that's going to be on the list. But number 2 is probably the O-line. We're going to talk a lot about the O-line. We've already talked a lot about the O-line, so I'll probably leave that off the list. But, man, big question. And I have a hard time understanding why they're being status quo there. That is so anyway, Zach coming on Wednesday. A couple of great pieces on NOLA.com this morning. Luke Johnson wrote things to be looking at and looking for heading into camp. He's probably on his way to Irvine, California right now. Matt Paris wrote, I read every word. It's a kind of a look at Dennis Allen and why don't cringe. Don't throw things at your phone or your computer right now or your iPad. Why Dennis Allen, what Dennis Allen did over the offseason to make things different. And you know what? I liked what I read. Now, that doesn't mean that Dennis Allen's going to be that much different. And, 8 weeks from now, people are going to be like going nuts. But he has a big chance. We said it a bunch of times. This is his last chance. And can he do it? I think that he can. I don't not necessarily think he will. But the capability is there. The talent is there. I got one more quote from you coming up, but let me read this real quick. Before we get to the quote and before we get to Garland, let me tell you more about our friends at Evangeline Securities. You might know from listening to this podcast, if you've been listening, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-owned or privately run business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. For many in this situation, it might be a decision y'all have been thinking about for quite some time. Is it you? If it is you, or someone who is near and dear to you, have them reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will maximize the value for your business, and they do that by scheduling a complimentary valuation. I had to do that slow so I didn't screw it up. By the way, Nick and Ron both grew up in New Orleans, and after some time at big-time business schools in the hustle and bustle of New York City, they came home to help the people here who need them, the people they love, their peeps. They have offices on Poydras Street and in Lafayette. More on them and more on the business and what they can do for you later in the show. But in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, before I bring in Garland, because I want Garland, I know he's in the green room, to listen to this interesting quote, because this is how I'm going to start off his segment here. The Athletic does a really good, I like the Athletics football podcast. Obviously, not just about the Saints. I listen to it. I wouldn't say regularly. I don't listen to every show, but I do like it, and I think it's interesting. They had on a guest this past week, FTN Fantasy's Aaron Schatz. He was on the show, and the topic, the theme of the show was 6 teams that will either overperform or underperform in 2024. And the Saints were one of his overperformed teams, and he says he thinks they can actually win the division. Okay. But the funniest part about the whole thing is this is how he starts off. Now, he's going to try to sell you on the Saints being a better team than people are expecting, and they're projected to be either a 7 or 8 win team if you go by what Vegas has. This is his assessment of the Saints. Now, remember, this is a team that he says is number one team that can overperform. Quote, they bore people to tears. They are very average, very mediocre, don't have a lot of star players. They're just sort of there. A lot of people think they're bad, but they're not bad. They're average. Now that's going to sell me on a team. That is really going to, that's going to sell me. Let's ask Garland Gillen if that sells him. Garland Gillen, my friend, what is going on this Monday morning?
Hey,
how about that for a sales pitch?
Yeah, let me tell you, man, get your season tickets now while they're still available.
While they're hot.
Yeah. I leave tomorrow for Cal Irvine, so
Oof.
I'm in here today at Fox 8, just tying up every loose end. I'm flying out on Delta tomorrow, so I'm really worried about that. So we got a lot. Just give me to like Thursday. Like, give me a few days into training camp. Never been out to Irvine before. I don't know how the whole layout's going to be. So, it's the same kind of apprehension I had the first few days at the Greenbrier in 2014. Same thing in Jackson in 2006. So just give me a few days in. When you go to Saints camp and it's on Airline Drive, we know the routine. We know how it is. It's going to be a little different being out here at Cal Irvine, about 20 minutes from the water. So first practice is Wednesday.
I feel bad for you, man. You're going somewhere where it's going to be like 78 in the middle of the day. I feel terrible for you that you have to go through this.
Yeah, no. I got shorts, but also I got some hoodies, some vests. Yeah. I'm ready for any kind of weather out in California. I know the song goes, "It never rains" in like Southern California.
Never rains in Southern California.
Correct. I still brought my Fox 8 rain jacket.
By the way, let me ask you, did you bring any birthday cake? Because for those out there, yesterday, it was yesterday, right? Yesterday was Garland's. I'm not going to say the number. You can say it if you want.
I don't care.
I'm older than 47 years old.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 47. I was having my third kid.
You know what? Dummy. I'm 47, but I would probably safe to say I'm in maybe the best shape of my life. I mean, like, in my 20s, I would go out more. I would get some, some adult beverages more. Like, I don't drink adult beverages that much anymore at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Because I like to get up at like 5:30 and go run. And bruh, the older you get, you drink a few more extra drinks. That ain't gonna feel good in the morning. So my days of like that, those are over with too. So I'm, so my body's gotten in much better shape from that thing. And 47, I don't give a rip.
Yeah, that I did that well into my 30s, hence why I had my third kid at age 47. So, and look, hangovers now, people don't believe this is absolutely true. Hangovers for me, they now last like 2 or 3 days instead of, you wake up in the morning and you try to eat something, you take a nap, and maybe by the evening you feel semi-normal, and then the next day it's completely fine. Yeah. When you're my age, and my birthday's coming up too, it's a month away. When you're my age, it doesn't work that way anymore. So anyway, Jerry's saying hello. And he's saying, let's see, all the Saints. There's going to be a lot of Saints people out there. This is all the Saints content creators going to Cal Irvine for training camp. Y'all be safe getting there, and God bless. There's a lot of you going in there.
This is it. Well, there's no fans allowed. They're going to let a few VIPs in. If you go on ESPN.com, there's a huge Las Vegas Raiders story. They're dealing with the same situation that the Saints are dealing with. We're not, they're not letting outside, media from the Los Angeles area. Though, to be very honest, I don't think they want to come to us anyway. I mean, you got the Cowboys, Raiders, Saints, Chargers, Rams within 100-mile radius of each other, all having training camp at the same time in Southern California. That's a lot of teams. So we're going to kind of be on our own out there. But there's going to be a lot of us out there from NOLA.com. And, we got a team. We got Juan Kincaid, Sean Fazan, Jeff Hager, our photog, and myself. So we got a crew out there. So, it's going to be content every day starting tomorrow night with overtime. We're going to be launching.
Are y'all going to do the final bet from out there?
We're doing final bet from out there.
Wow, okay. All right.
I'm sure not going to ask Dennis Allen what he thinks about their over-under win total of 7.5. I'm just going to let that sit for a while, I asked Eric Kushner, who used to contribute to NOLA.com. I think he still maybe does. He was on Final Bet last week. He was just throwing some hot fire takes on the black and gold, man. He is a jewel on television. I'll say that.
We need more jewels on television. All right, let's we're gonna have some moments of this show here as we're 2 days away from camp that are gonna be, I don't know, Derry Downer-ish. We're going to have some moments that are like positive. And then we're going to have some moments that are just whatever. We say whatever we want. So let's start out with the negative, but it's something that we all kind of knew going into. It's no surprise to the people that cover this team. And frankly, at this point, it's no surprise really to the people who follow this team, which is why I've found it interesting that people who don't follow the Saints and don't cover the Saints, oh my God, Ryan Ramczyk is out for the season. We've been knowing this for months. But just talk about now that it's official, the team can move on and can officially go into training camp knowing that Ryan Ramczyk won't be here this year.
Yeah, first off, not unexpected at all. We thought that his career was possibly over with. I mean, when you're dealing with a lingering knee injury, that could just, he said he's going to be dealing with this for the rest of his life.
Yep.
So there was no surprise on our end that he was out. That's why they have Trevor Penning now at right tackle to fill in for that role of Ryan Ramczyk. We probably won't see him ever again, Ryan Ramczyk, in the black and gold, which is a real shame because, he was a 2017 draftee and he has been nothing but great on the right side of the line for the black and gold. And this is one of the main reasons why, Jim, when people ask me what I think their record's going to be this year, this is my biggest problem with the team is the offensive line. It is absolutely scary if you're a Saints fan when you're talking about Trevor Penning at right tackle. He's never played in his life. He struggled left tackle. You got Fuaga, who started at right tackle at Oregon State. Now he's starting left tackle. And then you got Nick Saldiveri, who had 16 snaps last year, played at ODU, Old Dominion, and he's your starting left guard right now. That is troublesome. I mean, I don't know if Clint Kubiak, I know he's an offense coordinator. I don't know if he's also a magician, but this is going to be an absolute tough deal for the black and gold with this offensive line. A ton of inexperience.
I'm going to tell you my biggest problem with everything is you make a mistake clearly. And look, again, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, he proves us wrong and he play right tackle. That's great. But you make a clear mistake at left tackle and drafting Trevor Penning in the first round using, they got the first part of it right. Chris Olave is a great pick. He's turned out to be one of the best receivers in football, and we've talked about that. But so you compound this mistake by moving a guy that you draft this year in the first round, Tali Fuanga, who is a natural right tackle. So now you're going to move him out of position and teach him how to play left tackle. And you're going to take a guy in Trevor Penning who failed at left tackle, but that's his natural position, and you're going to move him to right tackle. So you have two guys now out of position, one who's proved that he couldn't play tackle. Make this make sense for me.
Hey, this has been my biggest beef with this whole thing. And then maybe one of these other guys will come in, Oli Udo, they're talking about maybe getting him in there.
But still, he would play right tackle from everything that I'm seeing. Even if Oli Udo comes in and then Trevor Penning can't do it, they're talking about putting Oli Udo at right tackle.
Yeah, unless Derek Carr's throwing, the ball like 2 seconds right when he gets the snap, this is going to be a major issue for this team going forward. I know we're going to talk about receivers too. I'm not completely sold on the wide receiver crew either for the black and gold. I just think there's a lot of issues. We don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to show up at training camp tomorrow. There's a lot going on. And if you want to go to the defensive side of the ball, is Chase Young going to be out there on day one? The defensive end is another thing.
You're jumping ahead like a show ahead. You're a show ahead of me.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
I'm just
laying out
you can say whatever you want. 100%.
I'm just laying out what I think are like 4 or 5 things that make it worrisome.
There's
right
no
now.
question.
Because when Saints fans ask me what the record's going to be, and then I tell them, what my thought process is, they all have this sad look on their face. I'm not going to lie to them. Okay. My job is, do I want to see the Saints do well? I mean, it makes everybody's life a lot easier. I work at Fox 8. We have the NFL playoffs on our air, so the Super Bowl is on Fox 8. So yes, it would be great, but I'm going to be realistic with you. And right now this is a 7-10 team or an 8-9 team. I don't see them, winning the division right now. Okay. There's just so many question marks, massive amount of question marks on this team.
I had someone write me a week or two ago and say, you are the most negative SOB that I've ever come across. I don't know why anyone watches your show. We're not here to be fans, Garland. We're here to tell you the way that it is, or at least the way that we think it is, or see that it is. So I'm not going to blow sunshine up someone's keister if there's no sunshine to be blown.
No, I'm with it. We have 13 games of the Saints on our air.
Exactly.
That we consider ourselves the home for the New Orleans Saints. Viewers and readers and listeners are very smart, okay, and they want to be they want to be told the truth about this team, okay, and especially at the end of the year, the everybody's going to point out what your predictions were at the beginning of the season.
Right.
And what you said, and I want to be on the right side of history when that happens. When I say they were going to go 9-8 last year and they went to 9-8, I want to be. I was on the right side. I might not be on the right side this year alone, but this right now, I think they're a 7-10, 8-9 team that finishes either second or third in the NFC South, and that's where the betting odds say right now. The Bucs are a little higher than them right now in the division, and you know what? If they prove me wrong, fantastic. Right. I just have all the data. This is the data I have in front of me. Okay. I'm not trying to, sell subscriptions or any of that kind of stuff or have people listen to my podcast. I'm giving you the honest truth.
One thing that's kind of sad in a way is if they could just get their heads out of their asses just for a minute and realize that there are some left tackles out there that they could bring in that at least try, and I'm going to say it again. I've said it probably every other show for the past I don't know, 3-4 months. David Bakhtiari's still out there. There are a couple other guys that are still out there. I honestly think if this team could have like a 20th ranked offensive line, I'm not talking about, you don't have to be 10th. You don't have to be in the top 10. You don't have to be even average. But right now you have I think by all measures and accounts, just about everything that I've read everywhere, it's a consensus that the Saints have the worst offensive line going into training camp with the most questions, even with your first round pick, than any other team in the NFL. If you could just get to 20th, I realistically think this team could win 9, 10, maybe even 11 games and certainly be a contender to win this division. But if you go in with the 32nd ranked offensive line, unless you are so damn good everywhere else, which you aren't, it is just making things to where I just don't think you'd be anything but mediocre or worse. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, the guys on the bench right now, you got are Shane Lemieux, Lucas Patrick, Landon Young. That's your backups right now going into the camp. You're right. The left tackle is, Fuaga was a force at right tackle at Oregon State. Absolute force. That's why he's a first rounder. You are set at least with Aaron McCoy and Cesar Ruiz. Okay, those are some of your rocks on the offensive line. But the two guys that are blocking Derek Carr's blind side have a combined 16 snaps in the NFL right now. That is completely worrisome. You're right. Right now they are in the 20s with an offensive line, and
you wish that at least they had some snaps against SEC teams, like even in college. But Nick Saldivari played at Old Dominion. Tali Fuanga, I'm getting these names messed up, played at Oregon State. So, sure, the Pac-12 was tough. Somewhat. But it's not the SEC. So, and then Trevor Penning, guy from Northern Iowa, for God's sake. You look at some, and I'm not going to say all of them, but if you look at most of these great offensive lines in the NFL, you can go down and count all these players that are from Big Ten and SEC schools. And look at, lo and behold, Eric McCoy, who is clearly the best offensive lineman on this team, is from Texas A&M. That's not a coincidence to me, Garland.
Cesar Ruiz went to Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
Blocking against Ohio State guys, Wisconsin guys.
That's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah, no, you make some valid points on that offensive line.
If you miss a couple times, Garland, okay, you think Trevor Penning's this freaking nature, fine, whatever. But you reach out for Nick Saldivari. That was a lower round draft pick. No one thought he was going to be a starter now going into his second year, but why wouldn't you learn from those things and see what other teams do? Why are you being stubborn and saying, this is what our scouting says? You don't need to be a good scout to maybe know. And I know he was going, but like a J.C. Latham or somebody like that, go along those lines. Maybe move up a couple picks to get him instead of a Kool-Aid. I like the Kool-Aid pick. I don't even like that. I'm not even saying that was wrong. I'm just saying do something else, something that works for other teams in the past, and stop doing things that don't work for you.
Well, they've had some guys in that organization have been there a long time, and and some things have worked in the past, but you don't have Sean Payton and Drew Brees there anymore. Jim, all these problems are going to be solved quickly if you have a legitimate quarterback. And last year he did not play up to his standards, but at the back end of the season he did. Derek Carr did. So maybe you want to try to bottle up what he did in the back end of the season. He makes or breaks this entire season. Okay, when you don't have, you saw the quarterbacks they've ran through the last few years between Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, a bunch of nice guys in the locker room. Can always give you. I know everybody loves Jameis, and he gives a great soundbite, and everybody loves him. But you know what? It was either it was crisis or carnival, as Sean Payton would say. He would throw into triple coverage, either get intercepted or he'd make one of the greatest passes you ever saw. It was just too much of a roller coaster, and you need stability at that position, and they haven't had it since 2020 with Drew Brees.
Yeah, well, A-Town, you hope I cover pro wrestling one day. I haven't had anything to do. I don't. The only wrestling I've even watched in my life is back when I was a kid and watched Mid-South Wrestling. You remember that, Garland?
Oh yeah, and you know what? I got. Now I will say that you were talking about depressing. When we're talking about the Saints. I did get to see Iron Claw by the Von Erichs, and a fantastic movie. Very sad movie, but when I was a kid, dude, the Von Erichs were like the business, man. They were fighting Ric Flair and all that. So it kind of brought.
So that's
me back.
even after my time. Like I watched the Junkyard Dog, and I don't know, the Iron Sheik and the
Jim Duggan.
Ugandan Giant, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That's when I watch wrestling. Not that it has anything to do. We're getting off on a tangent. Rocky says 10 wins. Write it down. He said it here on July 22nd. Rocky, they win 10. You know what? I'll make a promise to you. If they win 10, we'll get you on the show somehow. Last question before I move on to something else. Will Ryan Ramczyk ever play again in the NFL?
I say no. And I will say this. I don't know if people – have you ever seen Alan Fanaga after he retired? Yeah. Like how he lost like 50 pounds? Yep. I've talked to one person who has seen Ryan Ramczyk within the last 6 months. They said he looks like Alan Fanaga now. Like he went back to Wisconsin. Like he hasn't been in New Orleans at all, so no one has seen him. But apparently he's lost like to take pressure off that knee. He's lost like 30 or 40 pounds. So like if when he comes back, if we ever see him, like even if he retires,
a lot of those guys do.
Yeah, like be ready to be shocked because apparently he's lost a ton of weight to alleviate pain on that knee.
You mean like he's super skinny? Like now he's not even like a normal thin person. Like just
he's still a big guy for his standards, but he's lost like 30 or 40 pounds. Like
I mean, all these linemen when they get out of football, they either become, and most of them become thin, but they either become like overweight and obese, or they become like 50 pounds lighter. They lose a lot of their muscle. I mean, look at Kyle Turley. I mean, Kyle Turley doesn't look like he used to look back in the day, So, I mean, you can go through, but look, I think when Ryan Ramczyk realizes he sits out of football and realizes that he's better for his health in the long run and that he wants to walk he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life, having to take painkillers to get out of bed or whatever it is. I mean, those guys, it's about you. I mean, you got plenty of money to live the rest of your life. As much as I'd love to see Ryan Ramczyk in the old form come back, doesn't make sense. So I don't think he's coming back either. Doesn't make sense for him to come back for his health, for his own personal health.
No. It's a lingering knee injury. He's made his millions, and you know what? I mean, he's early 30s or probably
he's
late 20s.
I think he's 30. I think he's 30. I'd have to look, but I know
he's in the 2017 draft class because I was at the NFL draft when him and Marshall Lattimore went in the first round in Philadelphia. There you go. Gabe said he's 30 years old. So there you go. We nailed it right on there.
And the only reason why I know that is because I was doing it either last week or week before. I was trying to look at how many starters the Saints have that are 30 years old or older. And I remember seeing his name on the list. The answer was 9, by the way, but that includes Lou Hedley and includes Derek Carr. But more on that to come. We talked about it a little bit last week. All right, let's move on to the positive. Okay. And somebody asked earlier about Shaheed's contract and, getting a $5 million contract. I'm trying to here we go. Rocky asked about it. How do we feel about the Shaheed extension? I feel really good about it for a multitude of ways. One thing that I think that this does, Garland, is one position that I think, at least on the offense, besides Derek Carr, that's stable. Well, I mean, maybe it's not stable because if they do poorly this year, they might want to make a change there. I don't know. But I think the most stable position on this offense and maybe one of the most stable positions on this entire team is the wide receiving core. And you look at Chris Olave, he signed through 2026. Shaheed is now a restricted free agent this coming offseason, but the likelihood of him leaving is probably small. Cedric Wilson through 2025, A.T. Perry through 2026, Taysom Hill, if you want to count him in there, through 2025. So really, the only receiver that they have that's going to be either gone or have to do another deal is Equinemius St. Brown, and we don't even know where he fits in this team. So this wide receiving core can have some consistency from this year going forward, and I think that's certainly a positive for this football team.
Yeah, I mean, he originally signed a 1-year deal for a little under $1 million. This is your number 2 receiver, so the black and gold are getting up pretty well right now for your number 2 receiver. You locked in Olave, who I think is one of the top 1 receivers, I think, in the NFL. Shaheed is your number 2, and then when you go after that, gets a little dicey between A.T. Perry and Cedric Wilson Jr., and you got Equanimous St. Brown, and you got Bub Means. So the back end is not as strong. I think Shaheed is a good receiver. But if you lined up like the Saints 1, 2, and 3, it probably stack up in the bottom, probably 16 of the NFL.
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
So. See, I think Cedric Wilson is going to mean so much for this team. I really do. And I mean, Lord knows, I mean, I'm negative at times, but I'm really super positive about this wide receiving core because I think it's one of the better ones in the NFL. It's certainly one of the most unsung receiving cores in the NFL. I think Chris Olave right now is a top 6, 7 receiver. I think Shaheed is going to take a big step forward with the experience that he's got. Now, this is all assuming that the car has some time to throw the ball, right? But I think that Cedric Wilson, a veteran presence who can make those across the middle catches, is going to be a big deal. And then A.T. Perry, I think he's ready to take the next step. So you got 4 guys right there. We don't know how Taysom's going to contribute. I think Bub Means is going to spend the year in the practice squad. And so then it's up to Equanimous St. Brown and maybe some other surprise that we don't know about. But I just think that this core is solid. And again, it's up to whether Derek Carr has the time or not. But I like where this receiving core is.
It's a good group. You know, I have more problems right now at tight end because Juwan Johnson probably is not ready for the beginning of camp. So you got a Foster Moreau, you got Dallin Holker, that is an undrafted free agent, and he looks like he's going to probably make this roster. So, you know, tight end's a little more dicey, but yeah, you put up A.T. Perry and Cedric Wilson and those guys. It's a good class, but you got Olave, you got the number 1 guy, and that's the most important thing. And you have, you know what, the other most important thing is you have a group that is been healthy. You know, is much as it's been up and down for Michael Thomas, one thing it's been his health. You know, it just couldn't stay healthy for the last 3 or 4 years. So at least you got some guys in there that have not really dealt with any major injury issues in the past few years.
All right, before we move on, LSU, I want to ask you about what your thoughts on Alvin Kamara and what do you predict? Look, I've said for weeks now, I am not nearly as positive on when his return may be, unlike some of my other friends in the media, including our own Luke Johnson, who writes in his little, you know, his training camp what to watch. He thinks Kamara will be back at some point in a couple of weeks because to his own acknowledgement, there's been little to zero movement. I mean, what are we waiting for? Why do we're just all going to take 2 weeks off and we'll worry about Kamara's contract when we get to camp. I mean, every day that he misses this camp with this new offense is a detriment to this team. He's got to get back in there sooner rather than later. And I got to be honest, I don't know that Kamara cares enough to come back.
First of all, I don't think he'll be there tomorrow.
He certainly won't be there tomorrow.
And that's going to be the biggest story of the first few days of training camp is him missing. I mean, it's going to be one of the first few questions to Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis, unless I know Kamara's been very busy on Instagram. He's been posting like workouts and posting pictures of himself in the Saints uniform. So that's going to be one of the key things that we're going to talk about tomorrow. Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis talk at 3:45 Pacific time, 5:45 Central tomorrow. So that's going to be one of the big questions. You just don't after what's happened last season, they missed playoffs 3 years running. You need some positive start with training camp. And I think this is going to be kind of, a dark cloud over
without a doubt
with the first week. I mean, for him he goes through walkthrough on that Thursday of minicamp and then just pieces out. And a bunch of the media saw him get in his car and leave. He made a statement and it's been very quiet. And you're right. I mean, we in the media have taken a lot of vacation, right before training camp. I don't think the Saints management should took a vacation the last few weeks.
Exactly.
Maybe they've been keeping it all quiet. Who knows? But
they ain't keeping it quiet. No, I mean, they keep everything quiet anyway. But I think, look, everyone says the Saints hold all the cards. As far as the money goes, they do. They do hold all the cards because everyone knows that he's not playing under contract with next year's contract. I mean, there's zero chance of that. So as far as an extension goes and as far as money goes, yeah, the Saints hold all the cards. But Alvin Kamara, and I get if he wants to play in the future, he's hitting 29. He's not getting any younger. And I've said this a bunch of times too, but Alvin Kamara he could legitimately say, you know what, the hell with it. I'm going to sit out this year. I'm going to stay fresh. I'm going to keep working. I'm not saying he's going to do this, but I'm saying if he wanted to do this, he could. And it's more to me. And you look at like a Latavius Murray who played until he's 33, 30. He might be still playing for all I know, but it was because the number of his carries were lesser than a lot of the other running backs. And I think it's just as much about the number of carries, how many times you touch the football, as it is your age. And so to preserve a year, if he decided to sit out, I don't think he would be any less good in 2025. So, and to that respect, I think Kamara does hold a lot of the cards. And one thing you said is a dark cloud. Every day he sits out is more questions that media people are going to ask, because it's going to be asked every day, all day. It's going to be the first question every single day until he comes into camp.
Well, I hope not, but
I mean, let's be realistic.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to ask Dennis Allen that every day, but we're going to talk about it in shows, like our overtime or our game plan or final bet. I don't know if Dennis, maybe they will.
Somebody's going to ask it. You might not.
Yeah, because Dennis is supposed to talk every single day. They're going to give us like 2 or 3 or 4 players per day also out in Irvine.
And then they'll ask the players, what does it mean to not have Alvin Kamara here?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see a lot more Kendra Miller
and Jamal Williams.
Yeah, the first week of training camp, Yeah.
Well, look, I hope I'm wrong, Garland. I hope that he does sign soon, because they need him. I mean, to me, as Jerry says here, they need to, I don't know about the pay part. They can't afford to pay him a long-term contract. But I think there's a middle ground somewhere in there that this team can find that benefits both sides. And one thing that the Saints are very good at, there's a few things the Saints are very good at, but one thing that I know they're very good at is finding that middle ground. They're good with the contract side of things. They've always been good at that, and I think they will. But look, again, every day that he misses going forward, not in this new offense and not figuring out his role, I don't care if he's Alvin Kamara or Barry Sanders or Earl Campbell or whoever he is, he's got to get in there.
Yeah. And, the good thing is, Jim, we're actually talking about California and training camp is here. I'll try to bring the temperature back up, the excitement here. At least we're talking about camp. I mean, I get excited.
Absolutely.
I watched the British Open on the treadmill yesterday, and, the Tour de France ended yesterday. So we're getting some real ball back. I mean, the Hall of Fame game is 10 days away. Like,
Gabe Henderson's thrilled. He's the Houston Texans fans. He can't wait.
Houston Texans are playing the Bears in the Hall of Fame game. So, like, we're good. College football, EA College Football 25 is rolling. So there's things to be excited about, man. So I was at SEC Media Days last week. I think we're about to talk about that, but it was cool to realize that training camps are kicking off and football's back in the air. I just need the temperature. I know I'll get in California, but I'm sure for the people in New Orleans, we need to get this thing down to into the 80s. And that's when I know that football's here. Let's get the temperature down a little bit. I know I'll get it out in California.
Friday Night Football is around the corner as well.
Yeah, dude. You know where I'm going week 1.
You'll be with me on the Best Bank.
By the way, let me stop you. I do my preseason Big 8. I love the comments. Like I think I saw the coach of St. Paul's on X. We just got to work harder. Ken Sears posted on X.
I think that was Ken Sears, the smaller, the younger Ken Sears. I think.
Yeah.
Ken Sears is the.
Can I just say? And then I remember last year, Wayne Stein brought it up to me that they weren't in the Big 8.
Oh yeah.
We're going to figure some things out, okay? St.
That's
Charles
a good
Catholic,
thing that people are paying attention.
Yeah. St. Charles Catholic's playing Newman in week 1. Carr's playing Shaw. People really made John Curtis one. Well, guess what? John Curtis, I think, really got a bad call in that game against Catholic High. They should have probably won that game. John Curtis absolutely smashed Carr last year, just dump trucked him. So I had to put Curtis in front of Carr. And then Destrehan's right in the mix also. So that's a really strong starting 3. The back end will kind of figure itself out. Okay. It's early. Everybody calm down. No, this ranking only is for Fox 8, okay? I put all classifications in it, okay? This has no bearing on PowerPoints or anything. This is my thoughts of doing a ton of research. But I will say this. I know we're going to go to college football, but I did mention this to Aaron Dietrich, who works at KNOE in Monroe. He has a good radio show up there. He asked me for a dark horse, and I told him that St. Aug was going to be the dark horse because I think Robert Valdez is one of the best coaches in the state of Louisiana.
I agree.
And he's got Jakeem Stewart. And I went to one of their practices in the spring, and they had like over 100 kids out there. So
yeah, anyway, I agree. And one thing that St. August, and we're going to have a prep segment.
Okay,
we're going to have a prep segment this year. It's something I haven't done, but I am going to do it. I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm going to try to get someone from the prep, maybe the prep coaching world, each week.
Well, there's some talkers out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you want your show to go 2 hours, bring Coach Salt on.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. One of my best friends, so he'll definitely be a part of it.
He can definitely talk with the best of them there.
But you and I both week 1. It might even be September. Is it August?
It's a week after. So this is a funny thing with the scheduling this year. High school football starts the week after Labor Day. Okay. It's going to go back. It's going to go back to normal next year, but this is a thing weird.
It's a weird calendar. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, week 1, you and I will both be on Salesian Lane. I'll be doing play-by-play for Varsity Sports Now. Carr and Shaw, can't wait. I'm sure I'll promote it enough before we get there. You'll be doing Friday Night Football from there. Let's talk about the LSU football Tigers, and obviously this is certainly in your wheelhouse. This is probably what you're closer to more than anything during the football season. Obviously, you cover the Saints, you cover Tulane, you cover even Nichols and Southeastern and just football in general. And you're an AP voter in the top 25. But I know that you're probably as close to LSU football as anything. SEC Media Days last week, the LSU Tigers were predicted to finish 5th. How do you think that stacks up, and where does that stack up to where you picked them?
I had them exactly 5th. The only thing I had different in the top 5 with the national media was I had Ole Miss 3 and Bama 4. That's the only difference I had because there is and you were on this last year at Alabama. Everybody's still really high on Bama, and everybody loves Kalen DeBoer, but I think that people might figure out what Jalen Milroe is, and I think there's a chance that they can finish 9-3 this year with road games at Tennessee and LSU and a home game against Georgia. That's the one I put in the top 5. But if you're in the top 5, Jim, I think you have a shot of getting into the college football playoff. I think that 10-2 is right there. I think people are having culture shock that Ole Miss is in that top 5. I don't think they're ready for the Rebs to be in the college football playoff, but everything seems like they're going to be in the playoff.
Gabe Henderson asked, and I asked the same question. I don't get the hype on Ole Miss at all. I understand that their offense is great. Jackson Dart's coming back, but I have never been a Lane Kiffin fan, and every time Lane Kiffin has had a chance to do something, he flops. He flops like a pancake on Sunday morning. I don't understand why anyone thinks this guy's a good coach. He's a great offensive mind, but as far as the head coach goes, he hasn't done anything that suggests to me that this team can be anything better than its typical 10-2. Maybe if you're lucky, go to the Sugar Bowl. That doesn't mean anything, kind of thing. I don't know. Tell me why I'm wrong.
You ready for this? You ready for this? You know why I think they are? Because I got their schedule right in front of me.
Okay, well, I got LSU's schedule right on our screen here. Go ahead.
Yeah, but Ole Miss has got Furman, Middle Tennessee State, at Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, home to Kentucky. That's 5-0 right there. That's boom. At South Carolina, Shane Beamer, they've gone backwards. That's 6-0. At LSU, that's a major roadblock for them. That could put them to 6-1. Oklahoma at home, they should beat. Arkansas on the road, Arkansas is bad. Georgia at home, that's going to be their other big one.
They're not beating Georgia.
No.
I don't care if they play them on the planet Mars.
So lose at LSU, lose to Georgia, and then they finish at Florida, home Mississippi State. That's 10-2, Jim.
Okay, well, look at this schedule, and tell me LSU's toughest road game.
A&M, probably.
Right, and they're not any good.
No, well, I will say this. There's a lot of respect for Mike Elko and A&M. They're a favorite at home in week 1 against Notre Dame, and everybody's all in on Notre Dame. I will say this. Riley Leonard, I saw at Manning Passing Academy. I stood right next to him. That dude is huge. I mean, he's like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
He can like run you over. Like Notre Dame's going to be a team this year. Riley Leonard is starting quarterback. He's much better than they brought in Sam Hartman last year, who obviously is much better looking than Riley Leonard. I mean, Sam Hartman had the beard and the flowing hair. He looked fantastic. But getting back to the main point is that I think A&M is going to scare a few people this year because I think Connor Wegman is one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. But if I look at the schedule, yes. I think they can get to 5-0, 6-0, 7. I mean, the losses, the road games are not that tough this year for LSU. If they finish 9-3, I'd be very disappointed in the purple and gold this year, especially with one of the best offensive lines in America. A quarterback who I think has finally figured it out. He doesn't want to be called a gunslinger anymore, because I think he thinks that's a negative connotation that he's just whipping the ball around and double coverage and not thinking about, the consequences if he throws a pick. I don't think USC is what USC used to be. They lost a lot of guys to the draft and the transfer portal. I think Miller Moss is a good quarterback. I don't think he's great. They got a new defense coming in also. So the only losses possibly I think are at home against Ole Miss and and home to Bama. And I think they might split those, and you're looking at 11-1 or 10-2.
So why'd you pick them as a 5-win team? I mean, as the fifth ranked team in the SEC.
Well,
I agree with everything you just said. I agree.
Georgia and Texas are going to both finish 11-1.
I agree, and I think don't hold me to this. I'm almost certain they're the only team in the SEC. What used to be the SEC West. There's no SEC West this year, I don't know how many teams in the SEC because I should have looked this up beforehand. But they're one or two that they don't have to play Georgia or Texas at home or on the road. Alabama's got to play Georgia. So to me, LSU, as far as SEC standards go, they might have the easiest schedule in the SEC.
Yeah. So I got Georgia and Texas, who both probably can finish 11-1. Then I got the Ole Miss Rebs, who I said could finish 10-2 or 11-1, and then Alabama. Alabama is a major wild card.
I agree.
They could be 11-1 or could be 9-3, and then I got LSU. So I think LSU fifth. I felt really safe of putting them at number 5 in my L rankings.
I think the floor for this team is 9 wins. The more I look at it, and I know I came on your show a couple weeks ago and we talked about it, and I said that I thought 9 wins was easily attainable. I've actually changed my opinion. I actually think 9 wins is the floor, unless things fall apart. I mean, to me, I think this is, I don't want to say easily because that's not the right word, but I think 10 wins is kind of in the middle. And I actually think they have a potential to win 11 because I just don't think that Ole Miss and Alabama are as good as everyone thinks they are. And I don't know that there's anyone else on this schedule unless LSU just screws up, which is also a possibility. They're going to lose to. USC is going to be way worse. UCLA isn't very good, in my opinion. So I agree that you're looking at 5-0. So even if they do lose to Ole Miss, I think they beat Arkansas, they beat Texas A&M, even though they're on the road. So they're not going to lose to Florida or Vandy, and Oklahoma they'd have to screw up to lose to. So again, I think 9 wins is the floor, and I think 10 wins is not only a possibility, but I think that's kind of the average of where you're looking.
No, I'm with you totally on all this. But last year I said they're going to go 10-2, and they finished 9-3. The problem was I didn't expect them to have the worst defense in LSU history.
Yeah.
I knew that Jay Daniels was going to be that guy. I just didn't put into play that Matt House did not have any idea what to do with that defense. I still have major issues at cornerback. And, we reported it. NOLA.com reported that, Javen Taviano, who got some starts last year, recently got arrested. And I'm sure he's going to be suspended from the team until there's there's a next court date. So you had a cornerback crew that was already suspect, and now you just lost one of your rotation guys in Taviano. So now you're down to, Ashton Stamps, Zy Alexander, who's come back from a torn ACL. You're going to have PJ Woodland, who's a true freshman out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And then you got the Ohio State transfers and J.K. Johnson and Jair Brown, who used to play at Warren Easton. So that's still my biggest thing is DBU is not going to be DBU, at least probably another year. But I did see that, this past weekend, and I wrote a story on it. I mean, they got DJ Pickett, who's who's like 6'4" cornerback, which is absolutely insane. So they're getting guys back, even though they lost Jabari Antoine from New Iberia, who's going to Miami. I think they're getting those guys back in the fold.
When we talk, we're going to have a whole show on LSU football the week before their first game, which is September 1st, I believe, against there it is right there, September 1st against Southern Cal. You're gonna be on that show because that'll be my birthday edition, August 29th to my birthday. So we'll have you came on for your birthday. This is the birthday edition of the Dattitude podcast. When my birthday comes up, I'll you can return the favor. I can have you on for my birthday.
Yeah, no, I'll be out there in Las Vegas. We fly out on the day before the game. So
it'll be before then.
They haven't won an opener since Joe Burrow was a starting quarterback of the Purple and Gold. Okay, against Georgia Southern in 2019 from KJ Costello throwing over 600 yards against Mississippi State. 2021 was a sissy blue shirt game against UCLA, and then the last 2 years they lost to Florida State, a missed extra point, and then an absolute horrible defense last year in Orlando. So they have not won an opener since 2019 when they smashed Georgia Southern in Tiger Stadium.
Well, if they don't win this opener, my thoughts and opinions will be completely changed because they have to win that game. Gabe says the Mississippi State game was an even lower point as a fan than the Troy loss. Yeah, probably right about that. All right, last question. Oh, they're brutal. Last question.
I was in England for LSU. I fell asleep at halftime because obviously we were 6 hours ahead.
Yeah.
And the Saints were playing the next day. But yeah, I remember watching that game in England when they lost to Troy. Yeah,
I was at a golf tournament and then the first half was during the tournament. Second half was driving home, and I think I turned it off too. When you give up 600 and something yards to Mississippi State, it's time to turn it off. All right, last question before we say bye-bye and you get yourself ready to go to Irvine. Will LSU make the playoffs?
Yes. I think they'll be one of the last teams in. I think they're going to be 10 or 11 because you can't finish 12th, by the way. Everybody's got to kind of read up on the college football playoff because a group of 5 team champion gets in. So you can't finish 12th, okay? Because
you think they'll automatically put them in the 12th spot, even if they finish undefeated.
Yeah. You got to finish like 10th or 11th to get into the college football playoff. That's why I think I'll be intrigued to see who's going to get that spot as either Boise or Liberty, or maybe, the way you put a shocker on either Kansas State or Oklahoma. We'll see. But I think they do get in the playoff because I think 10-2 gets you in, and that's where I see the purple and gold finishing.
I agree with Gabe. We need a playoff game in Tiger Stadium, which means they would have to be at the bare minimum 8th. So there you go. If they could finish 8th, Gabe says Liberty plus 470 right now to make the college football playoff one of his favorite bets of the year. I told you this on your show, and I'm not just saying this, and we'll talk more about Tulane later, but Tulane at 10-1. I don't think that's a bad bet, to be honest, with their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool to have a home playoff game for LSU. I mean, I've never heard a tailgate where they're playing Wham last Christmas. I gave you my heart, but the home games are going to be either on December 20th or 21st. So LSU will be playing in Tiger Stadium 4 days before Christmas, which is going to be absolutely wild if that's the case. But hey, those are small problems to deal with there. That'd be absolutely awesome.
It's the same. Yeah, I think this is the same week that the Saints are going to be playing in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field on a Monday night.
That's 2 days before, the 23rd. Yeah,
that could be a very busy sports week for us here. But we work on Saturdays and Sundays. We don't care, Garland Gillen.
Nope, we work rain, sleet, shine, and
so whatever it is.
We probably work holidays. There's no doubt about it. The Saints have played on Thanksgiving.
I've worked many Thanksgiving and many a Christmas in my life.
Yeah, they played on Christmas. Kamara's probably his best game as a Saint was on Christmas. So,
Well, be safe going to Irvine. I'll check in with you, give you a little text. And I hope you can survive the 78-degree high temps you're going to have out there.
It's going to be hoodie season again, man. I can't wait, at nighttime, I'll be out there.
All right, be safe and belated happy birthday. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Garland Gillen here on the Dattitude podcast on this Monday morning, presented to you by Evangeline Securities. Speaking of Evangeline Securities, before we get to the extra point today, we told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or privately run owned business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary evaluation of your company, if you decide to proceed, you get the numbers, you get to look at them, and then you talk about it with your family or your partners or whoever, and then you decide. Native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelton, the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world, and they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. They'll have your back like Teron Armstead had Drew Brees' back, like Willie Rowe for Jim Everett, like Jim Dombrowski for Bobby Hebert, like Trevor Penning. Wait, never mind. Strike that. You know what I mean. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform, and there are very few companies like them in this area, none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you, so get in touch with Nick and Ron about what is really important. You know what is really important. The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. It is time for the extra point, boys and girls. We go to the world of basketball, where the U.S. men's Olympic team was supposed to have a semi-tune-up Saturday in London before next week's Olympic Games by playing the South Sudan. The rumor is they only played the South Sudan because the North Sudan was unavailable. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the United States were 46-point favorites, which means that Nicholls State likely would have beaten them. They would have defeated these Sudanese all-stars who just might have a movie made about them someday. In other words, this was embarrassing. We all know shoulda, coulda, woulda don't mean squat in the world of real sports. But in this case, it certainly does. South Sudan led by 14 points at halftime, and James was pissed off that he and the other four starters were benched to start the third quarter by Coach Steve Kerr. Hey, Steve, how dare you bench the greatest whiner of all time? Will Kerr be fired? Well, he can't do that before the Olympics, but one can bet he won't be coaching the national team much beyond the Paris Games, even if they somehow regroup and win the gold medal. Who are these guys from the South Sudan? The answer? A bunch of cast-offs of the NBA, and just about all of them have had nothing more than a cup of coffee in the LeBron League. Point guard Carlik Jones, who put up a triple-double on Saturday, was the G League Player of the Year, but never got a real shot with the Chicago Bulls and has been playing in China. Mario Shayak was drafted by the 76ers, say that 10 times fast, but played just 4 games in the NBA. JT Thor, love the name, who scored 14 points off the bench, actually played 165 games for the Charlotte Hornets. But his option was declined last month, and now he's a free agent. The only real player for South Sudan who likely has any kind of future in basketball, at least in America, is 7'2" center Kaman Maluak. I think that's how you pronounce it, who will play for Duke this coming season. But again, there is no other way to explain what happened than to say it was a flat-out embarrassment. Can Team USA get it together in time for next Sunday morning's opener against Serbia? Sure. The question is, however, will anyone care? I don't know the answer to that because, honestly, I don't think I'm going to care. That is going to do it for us on this Monday. I got a comment. Gabe said someone said we almost lost an expansion franchise as South Sudan became a country in 2011. Well, there's your answer. How's that North Sudan team going, Gabe? We got to figure that out. All right. Well, I want to thank today's guest, Garland Gillen, and, of course, Gabe Henderson, who's not just behind the scenes any longer. We hope you can join us on Wednesday when we will welcome in our own Zach Ewing. We're going to ask him the top 5 questions entering training camp. We already know what some of them are, but I want to hear his perspective, his viewpoint, and what we're all doing here at NOLA.com out in Irvine. I'm not going to Irvine. I'll be right here in these beautiful Dattitude studios. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page and click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. I am so glad we have fixed our issues. Knock on wood. You notice I didn't say that till the end. The only issue I really had this morning is this GD fly that is pissing me off, and I can't get it out of here. He'll be gone by Wednesday, folks. That's when I'll see you next. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.